Hey, thank you for joining me in my car. It is 7 o'clock on the nose and I just left a cross country meet and I am here to do this Peace with Anxiety webinar. And I haven't done one this way because my past webinars have all been done via Zoom. And this one is going to be done through Facebook Live. So it's going to be a little bit different, so you'll have to bear with me. Normally I have a webinar presentation and I have all these slides to show you, but instead I just printed them out because Facebook, excuse me, Facebook has this thing where you can't show, you can't go back and forth between live, like face to face, and then switch to the slides. And I decided that an hour of trying to do slides on Facebook was pretty boring without cutting out. So normally if I were on Zoom, I would be kind of this way, and then I would cut back into the webinar, but instead you just have to look at me for the next however long it takes to talk about this. So thank you for coming. And like I said, I have my little slides printed out here. So if you see me flipping papers, it's because I'm trying to keep track of what I really want to say so I don't miss anything. And anyways, I'm really excited to be able to do this tonight. This is my third out of 4 webinars, and these are all about how to make peace with anxiety and how to really deal with it in a way that you know that when it pops into your life, that you have a way to deal with it that doesn't include melting down or freaking out, and how we can really get to this point where we feel confident in our ability to do that. So if you don't know me, if you're just stopping in, my name is Megan and I am the face behind 10,000 Swords Coaching, and I'll tell you a little bit more about myself here in just a few minutes. But what I really want you guys to know, what I want you to take away from this tonight, is that learning to deal with anxiety and learning to ride those waves and learning how to have the right system and the right skills and just the right frame of mind in place so that you don't get stuck in that downward cycle of anxiety is totally possible. And I am actually just kind of like walking proof of that, because it's kind of was the story of my life for most of my life, and it's totally manageable, but it is definitely a process of learning. So I want you to be able to look forward to what comes for the, like what's coming up in the day and what happens after where you are in this point in time, whether you're an adult or a teenager and you're dealing with this anxiety. And maybe it's anxiety that it spirals into panic, and maybe it's anxiety that just hovers like right under the surface. And the best way I can describe that is kind of like an alligator or a crocodile, how they're like just the eyes are sticking out and you know it's there, and you just kind of live in fear that it's going to get worse all the time or it's going to come at you. So that, you know, how do we get rid of that feeling as well? So what I'm going to promise that you're going to get out of this webinar tonight, or this Facebook Live, I guess I probably shouldn't call it a webinar, is I want you to know that you're going to know how to move from worried and scared to this place of calm, and that you can actually do that even when you have that feeling like you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, it's good. Is it good? Am I good? And you're kind of waiting for it to happen. We want to get past that, okay? So I'm going to show you the process to really move from worried to feeling calm and getting rid of that constant worry, all right? The other thing I want you to know that we're going to learn today is how you can really move from feeling helpless and stuck and not sure how to break that to really empowered to know that you can do this, okay? I did it, and I will tell you my story here shortly and what anxiety was like for me, so you don't think it was like I freaked out once. I'll tell you how this can go. I didn't ever feel like I had any control when I was living with this horrid anxiety all the time. And I do now. I do feel like I have control. So you can get there too. So I want you to know that you're going to move from feeling trapped to really free by the options that you have. And instead of feeling like you're a slave to this constant worry or this constant panic or that sick feeling in your stomach or just like shaky inside, just waiting for something to happen, I want you to feel like you can break free of that. You're also going to move really from confused about why anxiety happens or how to handle it to educated, okay? So I want you to know that there really is a way and there's a pattern and a system to do this. This is exactly what I do when anxiety happens. I will not tell you tonight one time that you will make anxiety go away forever and it will never come back. If I did, you should report me to Facebook for lies and fake news and everything else, because that's not the way it is. And I don't want anyone that watches this tonight to think that I am telling you I have a magical quick fix or something that will make it never ever happen again. It's going to happen, okay? I still have anxiety. I still deal with it. I just deal with it in a way that's productive, that allows me not to get trapped in a downward spiral. Okay, and that's really what we're shooting for, because one of the things that you're going to learn is that anxiety actually serves a purpose. And that was something that I didn't understand for most of my life, that there was a purpose behind this. And so I don't want you to miss this. So stay tuned till the end. I know that I don't have any pretty slides to show you. I mean, I could show you the little slides that I have. So I have a lot of really great stuff I want you to hear. And then, of course, if you get to the end of this and you want to share it with your friends, I'm just going to leave it up for a couple of days, and then I will take it down later on. But for now, I'm going to leave it up because I know that it's hard for people to find time to get on for a webinar, and Facebook makes that a little more friendly, even though there are other parts that don't work so well. So what I want you to know is you have already taken a huge step towards doing this, because I know that the whole idea of getting your hopes up that something might work can actually cause anxiety. And I know sometimes that showing up for things like live events or showing up for a Facebook Live or anything else can also cause anxiety. And oops, I pushed a button there. And I know that can also cause anxiety. And I want you to know that by stepping into that anxiety, you are already doing it. All right. So you're here, and that's good. So get comfortable. Turn off any notifications, like maybe put your phone on silent, or if you're on your computer, shut the tabs at the top. So get comfortable, because this is going to be your time to really get intentional about what you can do to move forward in your life. All right. I'm going to have a lot of things to tell you. You might want to grab a pencil and a piece of paper or something like that, something to take notes on. So I will give you just a few seconds to do that. If you want to grab a drink, if you want to grab a snack, if you want to get paper, ready, set, go. And I'm going to give you a minute, and I'm going to roll down my window because I'm starting to sweat. It's hot in here. Sorry, I told you I'll do this. It's just really hot. So you guys get what you need. I will open this and hope it lets a breeze in so that people don't listen to me also in my car. Ooh, that's bright. Okay. So you guys get what you need, and then we'll get started. Okay. It's always weird when I just have to sit here and look at myself for a minute. Okay. So how do you know if you're am I really on the right? Should I really be here? Is this going to be a waste of my time? So I'm going to tell you some ways that you will know if you're in the right space. If you or your teenager, or if you are a young adult and you are in a cycle of anxiety that definitely, and maybe it causes panic and maybe it doesn't. So one thing you need to know is that you can have anxiety and never have had a panic attack. You cannot have a panic attack and never have had anxiety. But maybe you have that underlying anxiety, or maybe you are trapped by fear. Either way, if you're experiencing that, whether you've had panic attacks or not, you are in the right spot, okay? You're also in the right spot if you've tried different things before, different tips, different tricks. Maybe you've cut out coffee, maybe you've done some different kinds of counseling and things like that. Maybe you've tried things in the past and they haven't really worked, or they've worked a little bit, but you're frustrated. Maybe through trial and error. And I always like to say, anybody can Google anything. You can Google anything And knowledge doesn't fix it, okay? So it's not a matter of Googling something and saying, I found the golden ticket. It's really, how do you use that information that you have looked up online? And how does it benefit you? And sometimes, how does it make it worse? Because it can be really frustrating when you Google something that 10,000 people have said worked for me and it doesn't work for you. One of those things that a lot of people have told me is the worst advice they ever have is actually the one thing that I know will shut down panic attacks faster than anything. So they Googled, you just need to breathe. And we hear this all the time, and we hear it on TV, we hear it from our friends. Take a deep breath, breathe. It's okay, breathe through it. Well, if you don't know how to do it, that's not gonna help you at all. You're just gonna get frustrated. So we'll actually talk about that in a minute too. But you're also in the right place. If you wanna know why anxiety is so powerful in your life, anxiety is a natural part of life, and it's actually, I told you a minute ago, it's meant to serve us. And I like to say that we are overachievers in the safety zone. We're not, whatever it is that we're fearful of, we are overachieving at staying safe. And sometimes that's good, and a lot of times that's bad, because the thing about anxiety is that we're also really, really creative storytellers. And a lot of the things that we tell ourselves are really scary nightmare stories. We ought to work for M. Night Shyamalan and write movie scripts, because we come up with some really fantastic, scary stuff that isn't really true. So we are overachieving at fiction. It's meant to keep us safe, but it's keeping us trapped instead. All right. And finally, you are in the right place if you are looking for a way to break the cycle of anxiety. If you're looking for a way to learn new strategies and really get a hold of this so you can start doing what you want to do. So I'm going to go back to my story really quickly and who I am. So I feel like I've told this story 10,000 times, and maybe you've heard it before. Anxiety started for me when I was really little, and I know I was in the 3rd grade when I got this like stack of papers from my teacher, and a little sticky note fell out, just like one of those little yellow Post-it notes. Yeah, we still had those back in the olden days when I was in 3rd grade, which was in the 80s, and it just said on it, always sick. And I was like, well, that was mean. I'm not sick. And I knew I wasn't sick, but I also knew I didn't feel good. And I knew that I wanted to go lay down in the sick room. And I went to this little teeny tiny county school, and I wanted to go lay in the sick room, and I really just wanted to go home and be with my mom and dad. And I know that somewhere around that time, it might have been before, it might have been after, my dad had some insurance agencies, and my dad had a really good relationship with this one company, but the company was in Cincinnati, Ohio. So he had to travel to Cincinnati overnight. And every time my dad had to travel, I was sick. I had a stomach ache. I cried. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I did not feel good. And my doctor gave me a pill to make me not feel sick. I have no idea to this day if that pill worked, because I wasn't sick. But I was anxious, but there wasn't necessarily a definition to it at that point that I understood. Because in the 80s, we didn't have this awareness of mental health that we have now in 2020. So for those of you who are doing anxiety now, I am so happy for you. Not because it feels good, but because we know what it is and how to deal with it. And I don't want you to think my parents didn't try and deal with it, because they did. It just wasn't talked about, and it wasn't widely understood. So I got a lot of, you're fine, suck it up, you're good. And I was fine, but you can't suck anxiety up. I mean, you can grit through, and that's what I did. And part of dealing with anxiety is grit. And I'm going to tell you that from the get-go. There's grit involved. You've got to get some, and you've got to have it, because we have to move forward, right? So that's where it started. And then I moved into middle school, and anytime hormones are involved, ladies especially, but also boys when they're going through puberty, girls in middle school, boys in middle school, pregnancy hormones, 44, any of those times where we have weird hormones, anxiety can definitely peak. It can go crazy, and it likely will if you tend to be anxious. So I got to middle school, and I remember sitting in that same little county school and reading a magazine article about Ryan White. And if you don't know who Ryan White is, he was from Indiana. He was older than me, but he contracted HIV and AIDS back when if you got it, you were going to die. And this kid was from Indiana, and he had a blood transfusion, and he contracted HIV and AIDS, and he died, of course. And it was this mysterious disease that no one knew anything about. And we didn't really understand it because it was the 80s and it was brand new. And all I knew was that I developed this incredible fear of getting HIV or AIDS. Like, I remember that was my first panic attack. I was in the library at Columbia Township School. And that fear kind of spawned all of these new fears for me. So every time I get anxious, it relates to some horrid disease, not colds and flu. I'm one of those people that, pre-COVID, I would like lick my palm to prove I wasn't going to get the flu because I'm stupid like that, apparently. I don't do that anymore, just so we're clear. But I was really, and still, I mean, if I'm going to have anxiety, it's going to be related to something with my health. Other people have anxiety related to talking to people, leaving their houses. So I'm pretty thankful that mine is related to something a little bit easier to disprove. But you could have some people have separation anxiety. Some people have social anxiety. Some people have anxiety related to relationships, or a lot of times anxiety can be fed by obsessive compulsive disorder, which I also pretty positive I have, because sometimes when we have anxiety, we can't shut those thoughts off. They become compulsive and a bit obsessive. And so all of those things can very, very much go together. If you feel anxious and angry, or anxious and compulsive, or anxious and exhausted, those are all tied together. So moving from middle school into high school and college, then it just continued to get worse. I went on my first round of medication in high school. It made me really depressed and suicidal. And so I didn't stay on that very long. And I decided that was definitely not worth it. And I went off of that medication thinking, okay, so medicine doesn't help. There's nothing I can do about this. I'm going to be afraid forever. But I was having panic attacks more regularly at that point. And if you've never had a panic attack, God bless you. They're the worst. I'm happy to say I have not had one in years. But I like to say it's like being in a whirlpool with like tunnel vision, like toilet paper rolls around your eyes, and not being able to feel your arms and legs or swallow or really get a good breath of air, and feeling like your heart's going to explode. Sounds great, right? It's about that great. And when you come out of that on the other side, you're exhausted, so you sleep it off. So when I was in college, there were days where I would have sometimes 3 panic attacks a day. And so that was really, like, when I say I get it, like, I get it. And it is, like, it sucks. So if that is you, God bless you. I feel it, I've lived it, and I don't deal with that anymore. So I am here telling you that there is hope, okay? So that's where we're going with this. So along the ways, I while I was at Purdue dealing with these constant panic attacks, I started going to an anxiety clinic. My mom finally said, Megan, you've got to go talk to somebody. This isn't good. I mean, I was not like leaving my bed for a while. And I did. And I went to the Purdue Anxiety Clinic. And this was in the 90s now. And I learned some techniques that I didn't think worked very well. I thought they were crap. And I was still nervous and still anxious and trying everything I could. But I was like, this is garbage. I don't get it. I don't understand why I can't get better. So I was convinced I couldn't get better. So let's see. I graduated from Purdue in 1998. I started teaching. I had kids. And somewhere along the line, I started figuring some things out. And I started figuring out, wait a minute. I remember I learned this once before in that anxiety clinic. Or wait a minute. I remember I read this one thing in this book about panic and phobias. And I started drawing on all this information and putting together all of these different ideas until I got to the point where I decided that I I could really tell that my anxiety had gone down. And that moment was just a couple of years ago. I still hadn't had a panic attack for several years before that, but I had learned how to stop my panic attacks, but I realized that I could do more. And that came when I learned about coaching. And I guess actually it was before I learned about coaching. It was when I learned about how you can change your thought process and how you could actually literally rewire your brain. So that's kind of what got me here. And along the way, I was like, holy crap, that's why I spent all these years being anxious. It's really so I can teach other people how to get over it, or through it, I guess, not over it, but through it. So that is why I'm here today with you. It is totally possible. So I want you to close your eyes for a second, okay? And I want you to imagine for a minute. I want you to imagine what it would be like to wake up and to not feel this trepidation for the day, and to not feel like there was the alligator under the water. So with your eyes closed, kind of imagine your day. And imagine waking up with all of these opportunities that are out there for you. Like, what experiences are you just putting off because you're so trapped by this anxiety? And then imagine yourself doing the thing, whatever this thing is that you want to do. And maybe it's just having a day where you don't feel nervous or you don't feel stuck. All right? And maybe picture yourself with this confidence that you need. And imagine what would open up for you if you had that. Okay, so if you want to, if you feel like this is the thing for you, you can do this. You can kind of type into chat, what would open up for you? Like, what would you be able to do if you had that? And really let that sink in, because I want you guys to feel it. All right? That stuff, that being able to do that, me doing this Facebook Live and talking about anxiety with zero anxiety, it's possible, okay? It's possible. You just need these three things to get going. I'm gonna tell you what these three things are, okay? All right, you can open your eyes and you might wanna write this stuff down. I'm gonna talk to you about these. I tried to get fancy, I guess. I'm gonna call them the 3 pillars of success. Whatever, you need these 3 things. Pillars, we'll call them. The first one is you need the right system, okay? I told you you can Google anything, and I did not make that up. You can Google anything. I mean, I had students who Googled things that I didn't even know you could Google. So it's out there, it's on the internet. But knowing it is not knowing how to use it, all right? So the first thing you need is the right system. So I want to take you back to this idea of the thing that everybody tells me doesn't work, that I am telling you right now works the best, and that is breathing, all right? So this is one of the things I learned at Purdue, and it was one of the things that I was like, well, that's garbage. And it's not. It's like the thing that I use every day. And the cool part about breathing is that you can do it around other people and they'll never know you're doing it. So I've had times where all of a sudden I'll be like, whoa, I am super anxious and I'm driving. Nothing happened. Who knows what happened? My hormones shifted. Something happened that triggered me that I didn't even know about. And I use it while I drive. I've taught this to my students. They use it in class. I have taught this to my own kids. They use it at school. They use it at athletic events. They use it when they're just feeling off. So this is what we do, okay? This is called, I call it 5-5-7 breathing. They might tell you, you might do it 5-6-8. You might do whatever, but the key in this breathing is to exhale longer than you inhale, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to put one hand on your chest and I want you to put one hand on your stomach, like right where your belly button is. If you are anxious, you are a chest breather. You breathe like this. And that hand here, that's why people say just breathe, because you're breathing enough to keep you alive, all right? You're breathing like you're running a race and you're keeping all that air right here. So what I want you to try and do is I want you to breathe until you can make that hand down here, the one that's on your belly button. I want you to breathe until that bottom hand rises. Okay, so I want you to breathe in through your nose and try and make that bottom hand rise. And I remember learning this at Purdue and I couldn't do it. It took me, they made me practice this for 3 weeks before I could figure out how to make that bottom hand go up. And it was like a workout. It was hard. So if you aren't getting it right away, it's okay. Keep practicing it. So the key is to breathe in until this bottom hand goes up. And the top hand will go up too because you are filling your lungs with air. Okay, so breathe until your bottom hand rises. Breathe in for 5 seconds. And then I want you to hold your breath for 5 seconds. And I want you to exhale for 7 seconds. And I'll do it with you, okay? So we're going to breathe in for 5. Hold. Exhale for 7. Let's do it again. Breathe in for 5. Hold. Exhale for 7. And I'm going to be quiet and let you guys do that. You guys can close your eyes for a couple minutes if you want. In for 5, hold for 5, out for 7. While you do that, while you keep breathing, I'm going to tell you that the right system is really kind of like a layer cake, okay? We're going to have fast techniques that shut down panic attacks. This is one of those techniques, and I'll explain why to you in just a second. So we're going to have quick techniques to shut down panic. We're going to have medium techniques that kind of start calming that anxiety when it's overwhelming. And we're going to have long-term techniques that actually can rewire your brain to be less anxious, all right? So while you guys breathe, I'm going to tell you that this is about creating a system to make sure that we're calming this, okay? So systems are really all of those things that you've Googled. It's the routine of your day. It is the methods that you use. It is all of these procedures, and they work hand in hand to bring that anxiety level down, okay? So why does this breathing work? Your brain has 2 nervous systems. You have a sympathetic nervous system, and that is your fight, flight, or freeze nervous system. And you have a parasympathetic nervous system, and a parasympathetic nervous system is the one that is calm and relaxed. When you are anxious, your sympathetic nervous system is in control, all right? It is all about keeping you alive, and it does a really good job of that. It's why you go into panic mode. The problem is that if we're in panic mode, we are unable to be rational. So if you're panicking and someone comes at you with, let's talk about this, forget it. You can't. It's the same thing as if you encounter someone else who is panicking. You cannot be rational with them. It is physically impossible to do. So when we do this 5-5-7 breathing, we are shutting off the sympathetic nervous system, and we are allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to take over. And when that happens, we're able to calm down and say, okay, what are we worried about? Okay, let's talk through this. Let's see how it's going. Let's see where we are. And then we can settle into a conversation. We can't have a conversation with someone who's panicking. That is what that 5-5-7 breathing is. But if you're not doing it right, if you're just going and you're breathing and gasping, you're feeding the fire. You're not shutting off that sympathetic nervous system. So when I say the right system, we have this whole tool belt or toolbox full of knowledge that we want to use, but we have to know the right way to do it. That's just one of the things that we can do to learn the right system, okay? It's also about changing your daily habits. It's about creating new habits. The next thing we have to have is the right support. Sorry, I have something in my eye. The right support isn't just somebody wanting to make sure you're okay. My mom and dad, when I was living with this horrible anxiety, did everything they could to be supportive. Okay? I mean, they did. They took phone calls in the middle of the night. They would call doctors. They would do all of these things. They would tell me to go do things. But the right support is really, it's not somebody just wanting good things for you. It's really about giving you an extra leg to stand on when you're falling down, okay? Support is being held together by your own desires, your own wishes, this is about the other things that we need. It's not just what we Google, okay? Support comes in being able to talk through things with someone. It might be with a coach. It might be with a counselor. It might be with a friend. But it's also knowing how to use those tools and knowing how to finagle things when they're not quite working. So when we say, okay, I've learned to breathe, that's great. Now, how do I breathe? When do I use it? What if it doesn't seem to be working right? How do I do that? And how do I make it work? So that could come through coaching. Like I said, it could come through counseling. It could come through a bunch of different resources, but you have to have that support to hold you together, and you have to create those habits. And habits are supports, okay? They're part of a system. We create them in the system and we develop them into supports. And changing the way that we function during the day and changing the way that our brains work create this support. Okay, so we have to have the system, we have to have the support, and we have to have the accountability, because I didn't have that accountability so much when I was in that anxiety clinic at Purdue. They told me what to do, and then it was like, okay, go, good luck, let's do it, we'll talk next week. And that didn't work for me because nobody was making me practice it. I didn't know how to shut off that anxiety at that point, and I certainly didn't know how to create a new habit. I had information. They told me to breathe, and they taught me to breathe so my bottom hand moved, but I didn't know when to use it. I didn't know how to use it. I was too scared to continue with it. So sometimes we have to have this accountability. And the accountability, what that does is that says, did you do this? Because you said you were going to create this habit. You said when you got up in the morning, you were going to practice your breathing when you were calm. You said that you were going to start changing the way you talk to yourself. You said that you were going to, you were going to go to counseling this week. Did you follow through? Or did you do these action steps that we talked about? Did you, when we were coaching, we said this week was about, stepping into that fear a little bit. And I know it's scary, but did you follow through? And that's really what the accountability gives for you. And that accountability can come from, again, the same thing that the support can come through. Support and accountability really work hand in hand to make the system work, okay? So again, could be your youth pastor, it could be a teacher, it could be your parents, it could be your coach, it could be your counselor, it can be any of those people to hold you together. And it's not just about holding you accountable, but it's also about cheering you on when you do something that was huge for you. Because if you are struggling with social anxiety, where you are afraid to go out and talk to people, or you're afraid that you're not going to fit in, and you put yourself out there and you take a phone call, but you haven't had a phone call in 2 months, somebody throw a freaking party, because that was a step. Okay? Those are the things we celebrate. You did something that moved you forward. You showed up here right now, and that moved you forward. So that is something to celebrate. Because you know what? There's a lot of people out there who are anxious who didn't show up because they were afraid. So stepping into that and making progress, accountability people celebrate with you, and they also kick your butt when you need it. And that's what we're looking for, all right? And I know sometimes that's scary. I know the idea of having to do some things that are really causing you anxiety, especially when you don't know where that anxiety is coming from. That's hard. That's hard. And when you do it, it deserves to be celebrated. And when you don't do it, you deserve a kick in the pants, so that we can make sure that you're getting what you want and what you deserve out of life. And I hope that makes sense, because I don't have my slideshow. I just have my papers. All right. So what I want you to ask yourself, take a second and ask yourself, do you have what you need? Do you have a system? Like, do you know what that system is? Do you know how to make that system work for you? And do you have the support that you need? Do you have the people or the methods? And then do you have that accountability? And do you know how to get it or where to go for it? Okay? So if you have all three of these things, it's a matter of stepping into it. And it's a matter of saying, okay, I've got what I need. I've just got to put on my big girl pants or my big boy pants and do it. And like I said, that's hard. That's one of those things we celebrate because it's a big deal. But if you don't have it, we need to find out where to get it. Okay. And that's what I'm going to offer you here. Okay. So, if you have tried other systems and they haven't worked, if you have tried medication, you've tried essential oils, you've tried chanting and mantras, and you've tried yoga, and you've tried talking to your dog, you've tried everything under the sun, and you've Googled everything into the ground, and you're still stuck, if you have no idea why anxiety is so powerful and how you can really move through it, then I'm going to guess that's why you're here. Okay? Because my guess is that you don't have the system or the support or the accountability. You're probably really sick and tired of feeling sick and tired and feeling exhausted and really feeling trapped by fear that you might not even understand where it came from, because some people are anxious and they don't even know what they're afraid of. And that is another kicker about anxiety. Anxiety doesn't have to be attached to something. Mine happened to be attached to something. Mine was attached to having every disease under the sun and absolutely not having any diseases. I don't know if joke's the right word. I can say I have had every disease under the sun and not had any of them, because I have manifested symptoms. I have Googled things. For the love, don't ever Google any symptom or get on WebMD if that's your thing. If you are afraid of those things, do not Google anything. Like, I learned that. Just trust me on that one. Don't Google. And I would recommend actually not Googling anything that you're actually afraid of, because anxiety will cause you to prove yourself right, even though you are most likely wrong, because that's what it does. It tells us stories, okay? So we're going to stop Googling. Step 2, stop Googling, all right? If you are in a spiral of frustration, if you have tried things and you don't know what to do, you have 2 options. One is you can keep working through what you're doing, and if you have systems that work, I want to congratulate you right now, and I'm going to encourage you to start putting them into action, okay? Use the things you know, use the habits you have, and keep pushing through. That is an option that you have, okay? And if that's working for you, do it. You have another option, okay? And the other option is that you can kind of step into this idea of 100% committing right now to doing whatever it takes to move further forward. Maybe you feel like your system is okay but not great. Maybe you think that sometimes patchouli oil helps and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes those things do help, and sometimes they aren't what we need in that moment. You can commit to finding a new system and finding the right support and finding the right accountability that you need, okay? And what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna invite you to join me in this course that I've created. It's called The Path to Panic Free. And this course I created after 35 years of anxiety. And I basically, so what happened was, when coronavirus started, I had this thing where I knew I was going to shift into what I knew I was supposed to be doing all along, which was deal with people who struggled from anxiety. I kind of narrowed that down to teenagers because I teach teenagers, and I was doing it already at work. And I thought, this is crazy because I can do more than one person at a time. There's so many people struggling, especially in the age of coronavirus, who are really, really need this information, and I've got it, and it's really kind of crappy of me not to share it. So I decided, how can I do this? And I'm like, I'm a teacher, I can create a course, and that is what I did. And it is called The Path to Panic Free. So I use the techniques that I use myself every single day, still just used them yesterday, I've used some of them today, and I created a course on how you can really make peace with anxiety and get on this path of living panic-free and really having more days with no anxiety than days with anxiety. And that is what we're working for, because remember, when I started this Facebook Live, I told you, if anybody tells you that you're going to make it go away forever, they're not telling you the truth. If they say they can fix it in 5 minutes, they're not telling you the truth. That is not what this is about, okay? This is really about moving forward one step at a time and learning what works for you that may not work the same for your best friends, okay? It's finding out what works for you, how to incorporate it into your life, and then developing these habits that give you the structure and the routine and the accountability that you really, really need so that you can feel better, okay? And even when you have anxious moments, getting through them and being like, I killed it. Like, I knocked that out of the park, because any other day I would have been in bed and crying and like calling my best friend or like hiding from the world. It's moving through those things faster until you get to the point where you're like, I haven't been anxious in a while. And then you know you're there. Okay? It's called The Path to Panic Free. It is 6 weeks of online lessons that are probably, I would say the online lessons, some of the modules have 1 lesson, some have 2. I would say at the most a half hour of lesson time a week. And I have 6 weekly lessons. They're bite-sized little pieces of weekly content so you can digest them if you are still in school, if you are working, if you are, you're crunched for time, you're in different sports, you can still do this because it's not going to require, it's not a course load in college, guys. This is bite-sized stuff that you can fit into your life, okay? 6 weekly lessons that are valued, like I would guess if I were to do them based on what I would charge for coaching, it would be valued at about $600, all right? These lessons talk about brain structure and function. They talk about mindfulness. They talk about changing the way your brain functions. We talk about physical stuff like what you eat, how much you sleep. We talk about movement. We talk about medication, okay? We talk about those things because all of those things are pieces to the puzzle. So 6 weekly lessons that are valued at about $600. And then I have the support portion, which is curated resources. I am not going to give you 10,000 links to everything on the internet. You can do that yourself. You probably have done that yourself, okay? I'm going to give you curated resources. And what that means is, so let's say the first week we're going to talk about, I'll actually tell you, we're going to talk about the little caveman in your brain. And I'm going to give you lessons that go with that, or papers and PDFs and links and videos that go with that lesson. Little pieces at a time, okay? I teach history and government. I don't give them information on the Civil War when we're talking about colonization because that's way down the road, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So it's the same way with this, okay? I'm gonna do this like I would a classroom. PDFs, videos, worksheets, all of that. This is about a $99 to $100 value. There's lots of different resources that you can have. They're all printable or watchable on your computer, on your iPad, on your phone. And then I also have the accountability portion of this. Excuse me, I'm running out of air. It's really hot in my car, you guys. And the accountability portion comes in a private group that is going to be held right here on Facebook, but it is only for members of this course, okay? So the course is private. It's not like everybody and their brother can come on and see what we're doing. And that way you feel comfortable talking about anxiety. So we'll get on once a week and we'll talk about, this is what the lesson was about this week. How did it go? Where did you struggle with it? You can tell me, this worked really well for me. You guys should try this. Or this didn't work for crap and I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. And we work through it. This is coaching, okay? And the difference here is that it's not like, okay, now go do it. It's like, okay, you have the information. Let's do this together. Okay, this is where we celebrate when you do something that other people would be like, well, big deal, you did that. And you're like, no, you don't understand. I freaking did that. We're going to celebrate in here. We're also going to say, did you do that? And if you tell me no, I'm going to say, why the heck didn't you do that when we talked about it? We agreed that we're going to step into this. Okay. So this coaching is another, about a $299 value. So we have the lessons at about $600. We have the resources about $100, and we have the private group coaching, which is about another $300. Okay. Total value is right around $998, right around $1,000. But this is the first time I've ever done this. So guess what? I'm not charging you guys that much because this is a learning process for me as well. And I'm asking you to be a part of this as a beta launch. Okay. If you don't know what a beta launch is, it's like I've created this thing and I know it's fantastic, but I would still like feedback and I would like to know what you like about it and what you're like, ooh, I think I could use more of this part, or you really need to rework this video because I liked it, but I think you could have explained it differently. So because this is a beta launch, because this is my first ever online course launch, the first of many, but the first, this is a beta launch. I am offering this as a first time run for just $99. So, what you can do is you can sign up for this in one payment of $99 or two payments of $55. And that gets you everything. It gets you the $600 in $600 in the courses. It gets you the $99 of resources. It gets you the $300 in group coaching, all together for $99, or 2 payments of $55. And I'm going to put in the chat right here because I have to type this on my phone, or a comment. Sorry, I'll put it in the comments. The link to that is www.10,000swords. 10,000 is all digits, swords.com/path. Okay. I put that comment in there, www.10,000swords.com/path. And that will get you to the sign up page. And I'm going to have to skip some things here because I had pictures of the slides so I could walk you through which button to push. You're going to see 2 buttons, okay? They both say buy now. One is for the pay in full and one is for the 2 payments. So depending on which one you click will take you to the checkout page through PayPal. If you don't have PayPal, you can message me here on Facebook and just say, hey, I want to do this, but I don't have PayPal, and I can send it to you through QuickBooks or whatever works, okay? So that is and that link is only good until the end of this Facebook Live, the live version, not the recording. And then that will not be valid anymore, okay? So what I'm gonna tell you is if you sign up before the end of this Facebook Live, I'm also including a special bonus module that I think is kind of like the icing on that 3-layer cake. Ooh, that was a really good pun that I just came up with there. Sorry, is that a pun? It's extra special. It is called How to Handle Setbacks. You will get that for free. It is another $100 value because it's a whole nother lesson. And How to Handle Setbacks is a bonus module you get if you sign up before the end of this the end of this Facebook Live, because it is inevitable that you're going to have setbacks, because again, we're not getting rid of anxiety forever. We are making anxiety manageable. We are talking about all the things you can do that work for you to bring it down to a level where you're like, had it, dealt with it, got over it. Okay? How to Handle Setbacks is actually if you need to use this, and you will, if you need to use this, it actually tells me that you've made progress, because the name alone, setback, tells me that you've made progress. And that is why you've had a setback, because you can't have a setback unless you've moved forward, correct? So, How to Handle Setbacks includes all of the things we need to do when you're like, I've been so good, why did it come back? It explains why anxiety comes back, how we can go through and fix it, and how we can say, okay, I'm not gonna let that pull me back down, I'm going to keep going forward. Setbacks are part of life on everything. If you want to look at a sports pun, let's talk about we can talk about swimming, because it's pretty much the only sport that I know very much about. Okay? You're not always going to have your fastest time. At some point, you're going to be like, I was tired, I hurt my shoulder, I was slower. Okay, well, are we going to stay slower, or are we going to go back to where we were? Well, we're going to go back to where we were. We had a setback, and then we move forward. Okay? This happens because we are always in the process of growth, and we're always in the process of change. So if you want to grab that bonus module, which would really take it up to like $1,098 or something like that, the price is the same. It's $99 or 2 payments of $55. The link is down below in the comments. It's 10,000swords.com/path. And that is really, the whole thing together, I'm super, super excited to put this out here. I don't know if you can tell. I'm talking really fast, and that's what I do when I get excited, because I have a lot to say. But what I want to do now is I want to open it up to you guys to ask questions. I want you, if you have questions about the course, if you have questions about what the content is, if you have questions about anxiety and what you're feeling, I want to go ahead and give you guys time to do that and ask. And that is available, of course, until the end. That special is available until the end of this live video. So if you've been watching this without actually clicking on the link and you want to pop in and ask questions, please feel free. If you're watching it live and you have questions, ask, because I'm here and I want to make sure that you guys have all the information you need to make a decision on if this is something that you want to be involved in. And so don't be shy. And if you're too shy to ask here, that's okay. I know sometimes anxiety can stop you from being able to do that as well. And you can private message me, and that will be, I promise to answer you after this too. So that is really the information I want to be able to bring to you, is just to encourage you to say, you've got to develop a system that creates habits, that changes the way that your brain is looking at anxiety. And what we really need to do is we need to take all of those awesome techniques that are out there that might seem like they're not working for us and put them into practice. We need to find someone to hold us accountable, okay? Whoever that accountability person is for you. If you have somebody in mind, great, ask them right now, okay? Ask them right now, ask them to hold you accountable. If you don't have anybody, you can sign up for this course and I will be that person for you. Absolutely. That's what coaches do. I've had people ask, what's the difference between a coach and a counselor? A counselor looks at the why and really digs into what's going on underneath. And a coach looks at the, okay, this is happening. How do we fix it? So a lot of times counselors and coaches will work hand in hand, and they'll say, this is what we're working through in counseling. We're trying to work through this. How can we move them forward? So we can pass along information to each other and say, okay, I know you talked about this with your counselor. How are we going to deal with that? And it's a very coaching is always very self-propelled or self-motivated. It's always the person who's being coached telling the coach what they want. I want to be able to, so for example, if you're watching this and you are a teenager, maybe what you want is, maybe your thing is like, I really want to apply to go to college in a different state, but I'm terrified to do that because I'm too shy, or I'm afraid that I won't be able to do that. And anxiety is making me fail my classes because I'm so afraid of graduating now, because I don't know that I can do what I want. Okay, well, let's work through that. You want to go to school in a different state? Let's figure it out. How can we get you to that point? Or maybe your anxiety says, you know what, I just want to be able to go out with my friends again and not throw up before I leave the house because I'm so afraid of leaving my house. Let's do it. Okay? So this is you setting your goal. This is you deciding what you want and then taking a step towards it. All right? So if nobody has any questions, I will go ahead and let you guys go. And again, don't be shy about asking in Messenger. If you feel strange about asking here, that's okay. And if you want to sign up for this course, registration is open. Registration will stay open until the 7th, and it will close on September 7th at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time. So 4:00 Indiana time, registration for the Path to Panic Free will close, and it won't open again until we've moved through this portion of the course, until we've run the course, and I will take all the information provided to me by all of the people in this beta launch, and I will go through and put some new glitter on things and tighten some things up and revamp things and add to it and make it even better than it already is. And at some point it will relaunch. I do not have another relaunch date yet, so I'm telling you, if this is something that you are ready to start now, sign up before the 7th. If you want to get that extra how to handle setbacks, sign up like in the next minute, okay? So thank you guys for watching this. If you have somebody that could really use this information, if someone came to mind while I was telling you all of this and you're like, wow, this person who's dealing with anxiety really needs this, they need this course, please share this with them. I'm not going to take the video down for a couple of days because I want to make sure that people have a chance to watch it. And that is really what I want to offer to you. And thank you guys so much for showing up for yourselves, first and foremost, for taking that step to move through anxiety. And also so that I don't sit here and talk to myself, which is awesome too. So, thank you guys. I hope that this was beneficial to you. I hope that you came away with some ways that you know what you need to do to move forward, really developing a system, getting some accountability, creating the structure that you need to feel better, and putting those puzzle pieces in place so that you can step forward, because you can totally do it. All right? Thank you. Have a great night. And I will be around tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to do this one more time. So if you couldn't catch the whole thing tonight and you really want to see it without watching a replay, you can catch me tomorrow morning at 10 I say at 10. I'm shooting for 10, and the reason I'm not going to hold it to, it might be 10:15, because I have to take my daughter to the doctor in the morning, but she's fine. But I have to take her to the doctor. But 10 o'clock is scheduled, and I will either be in my car, or if I make it back home before that, I will be actually on my computer. So thank you. I will catch you guys again for this exact same thing tomorrow morning. I will catch you then. See you later. Bye-bye.